cosplay, which is it's a niche, okay? But there's a big cosplay community here, which surprised me.
This is Dan at Vagabond Awake. And today we're going to meet Michael and Bianca of That Philippine Life. We're having lunch with them and we're going to chat with them. So come along with us. So That Philippines Life.
Yes.
Welcome to our channels, Hobo Ventures and Vagabond Awake.
Yeah, well, you know what? This is a real honor for us because we've actually watched their videos. So we found it very interesting and also very helpful when it came to us deciding what kind of budget we're going to be able to live on and all those different types of things. And because a lot of people do their budget stuff, but it's not the lifestyle that we can imagine ourselves doing,
right?
Where your lifestyle was much more what we imagined. So I don't need to hear whose budget is, what somebody's budget is in BGC.
Right.
Doesn't apply to us, right?
Yeah.
Or 𝗕𝗢𝗢𝗢 or going to the girly bars every day. You know, we don't need to know those budgets.
Right.
Really doesn't play with our channel in any way. So, yeah, so your lifestyle made a lot more sense.
Great. So it's Michael and Bianca, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Dan and Shun, it's great to meet you two. We also watched your channel before, even before we invited you to lunch.
Oh, wow.
We saw the video where Bianca was looking for relatives in the Philippines.
Oh, yes, in condo. Yeah, that's definitely.
And other ones too. Some of your budget videos and that kind of thing. So we were excited about meeting you two.
That's true.
And so when did you get to the Philippines? How long have you been here?
It's been 19 months. We came here the end of March or February?
March.
The end of March 28th of
Yeah.
last year, so 2022.
So you were in Boracay for 8 months?
8 months, yeah, we lived there.
What kind of budget were you guys living? I know everyone thinks it's the most, maybe BGC is the most expensive, but Boracay can be expensive too.
Yeah, it can be pricey, especially it depends on what kind of lifestyle you're trying to
Absolutely.
live. If you're going to expensive restaurants constantly and doing the activities that are expensive, it will definitely get up there.
Yeah.
But if you know how to maybe talk to locals and kind of explore more, you can definitely find cheaper prices.
You can live local, you can, just like anywhere else, the locals have to live somewhere. And so there is ways to save a lot of money.
What was our budget?
So our budget was at first it was under $1,100, and then we had a few little things like health insurance and stuff like we added into our lives that put our budget just under, I think, $1,200 a month. And we got to live on, one of the most famous islands in the country.
Yeah, anytime we say, oh yeah, we lived on Boracay for 8 months.
People's eyes just light right up.
And that included, we would go out quite often, either just for a drink or for a dinner, because we didn't cook as much. And so even with that budget, we still had a good time. It wasn't just saving and hiding in a small house or anything. No, we had a decent sized house and we could enjoy
we had a nice garden and everything. We had everything. And our health insurance was a zero deductible, full coverage health insurance.
Who was that with?
Pacific Cross.
Thank you. Okay. Oh, but you're actually going at a good time for prices, right? Because it's rainy season. Yeah. And also the back beach, now, only during these months from late August to October, November, do they have the the kite surfing and the giant waves and everything. So the back beach is very popular right now.
Yeah, but it is less busy than the front beach, the station.
The tourist beach?
Oh yeah, because all the tourists are always there, all the hotels are mainly there. And so a lot of people don't leave that area and they stay there. So you get back beach almost to yourself.
Yeah.
We like going for walks there because the breeze is nicer and it's quieter. And even if you go near the edge of Station 3, which is the closest to the port.
Station 3 is
I don't
quiet.
know why, because it's the first station, but they call it Station 3.
Oh, very quiet up there.
If you walk down, it turns into a private beach because nobody goes
Everybody stays in Station 2, maybe to Station 1.
Yeah, Station 2 is just the busiest.
Yeah. So after Boracay, did you come direct here to Iloilo?
Yeah, we lived on Boracay for 8 months. We lived in with the locals, and that's how you can actually live there, on the budget we had. So then when we finally discovered Iloilo, which is kind of a long story, but we found it by accident. We fell in love. We showed up here after going from provincial town to provincial town, provincial town. We love them all, but for us, we always wanted to live on the outskirts of a city that wasn't crazy, not super traffic and everything else.
Yeah.
Live on the outskirts but have access to a city. And we come here, and this place has got all the top healthcare. It's got all these malls and everything you possibly want out of a city, but no real traffic.
If you would like to learn how I fired my boss and traveled the world for 16 years and how I pay for things, grab a free copy of my ebook.
But no real traffic. Sure, there's always a rush hour, right? You'll have a very specific area where you get some rush hour, but it's the rest of the traffic. And it's unfortunate that Cebu, we loved Cebu, but the traffic, we just couldn't, just to leave. If you were the type of person who doesn't want to live right in the core and just walk around the core, like some people do, that's why BGC is popular, Cebu IT Park, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you want to be that person that kind of lives on the outskirts and come in and everything else, those places are, unfortunately, yeah.
That's very, like, there's so much traffic trying to get out of Cebu City that it almost makes you like not want to leave the city or not want to come in, which loses a bit of its appeal because there's so much in the city,
and
but
so
then
much in the country.
nature is so beautiful and it's supposed to be quieter, but you have to drive a little bit away.
We found the right balance for us here, and that's why we absolutely fell in love with Iloilo. And we still keep a budget around $1,200. It went up a little bit only because our better access to healthcare here, which is really tremendous in the city, meant that we were able to get more tests done, stuff like that. We were diagnosed with extra things, and now our own medications have gone up dramatically, right? From very little medications available on Boracay, there is very, very little, by the way. You can get them. You get the prescription and then you go to the pharmacy and they're like, no.
Oh yeah, good luck trying to fill your prescription on Boracay because they basically just have headache medicine for when you drink too much. On Boracay.
Yeah, they had blood pressure pills. They had some basics, but they do not have anything outside of that, where you normally have to go to Makati, Manila, Cebu, or Iloilo. Even here in Iloilo, we have limited pharmacies we can go to for some of the medications because they only have a couple pharmacists that are licensed or certified to give that certain one. That's a long story, but anyway.
Well, we should talk about how we found Iloilo because when we were on Boracay, we were getting quite bored. We had a lease for 1 year, but we ended up cutting it short because we eventually came here. And so we took a motorbike tour down across the Panay because we were like, oh, we have this whole island that we have not even explored even a little bit. So we started from Aklan, we went down to 𝗪'𝑇que, and then eventually we made our way to Iloilo. We're just on a very small motorbike, and the two of us with a backpack on, it was very, very, very uncomfortable. And our butts were very, very unhappy. But eventually we drove into Iloilo, and we were surprised just at how modern and how clean it was. And we weren't expecting it. We really did not have any idea of...
I've never even heard of this city.
Yeah, of what Iloilo City was. And so because of that, we cut our lease short, and we found them new tenants and everything, and we immediately moved here just because of the beauty of the city.
Yeah.
And there's so much available here as well.
And so on Boracay, you were living more local, you said.
Yes.
Are you living local now too, or have you?
No. Now if we lived local here, we could live for half the price for sure.
Yeah.
Like we did look at apartments that were 11,000 pesos a month. We pay 28,000. But that's only because we had to make a balance. And at the end of the day, we were like, what kind of life do we want to have, And do we want a small apartment? We're going to feel crowded. We're not going to really want to be there. Or do we want to feel like it feels like home? And we wanted it to feel like home. And that has, we have some space, and space to do our own things and then because we're together a lot, obviously. We're filming together, we're always around together. And so she has her hobbies that are entirely different than my hobbies, sort of thing, right?
Very different.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very important so you're balancing your relationship, you're balancing your lifestyle and everything. And so we didn't want to pay that. We wanted to pay 20. But in Iloilo, there is yes, you can get stuff under 15,000 pesos a month, but then if you want to go to the next level, you kind of have to really go up to the next level.
Yeah.
And there's very little that you would consider worth paying that extra until you get up there, right?
Yeah, there's not as much available housing. There's more condos than anything, but if you want like land or like a house with a small lot, it's quite hard to find something to rent. It's easier to find something to buy and build yourself as opposed to renting.
Yeah, there's a big housing shortage, I would say, here because they have so much growth, right, in businesses, and a lot of BPOs are moving here, a lot of jobs, and that obviously puts a strain on the whole housing community.
It sounds like you're able to get almost the same life here, but a nicer house than you have in Boracay.
Yeah, like on Boracay, we had a bigger budget because everything else costs more. Restaurants, bars, those kind of things. And so that part, because our rent was $20,000. So now we have $8,000 more here, but we end up saving a lot of money on where we go to. Like the cheapest beer is like $150. A lot of them were even more for a San Miguel Light. On Boracay, yeah. And down here, there's lots of places that are 60 pesos. So you can save a lot of money on your food and stuff like that.
Our budget basically switched around a little bit.
But ended up relatively the same.
You know, cities like 𝗵𝗵𝗃 are more like expat cities.
Yeah.
Would you call this an expat city?
No.
It's sort of a hidden gem.
So this is a family city. All right. This is not. Yes, they have parties, but it's not party city, right? Here, if a club gets out of hand and there's even a fight, the mayor will order that club either closed or put a curfew on every single bar and club for midnight for a month, to teach them all a lesson. No fights allowed.
I believe it was like maybe a month ago, there was an alcohol ban at midnight because one of the other clubs, there was a fist fight. And so the mayor was like, you guys are allowing like degenerate behavior? Okay, we're going to put this curfew for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it straightened up a lot of the clubs.
So it's definitely a family place. This is the place you want to raise a family. The schools are fantastic. Ateneo is one of the world's best international schools here in the Philippines. So a big campus here, obviously. San Agustin, one of the top 4 universities in the Philippines.
Yeah, education is quite big.
Yeah, it's very big and taken very seriously, especially even with the young. And also here, every weekend there's something. Fiesta, fashion show, there's something every week, always. Talent.
I'm into cosplay, which is it's a niche, okay? But there's a big cosplay community here, which surprised me because it is a city, but it's not
less than 500,000
of a city, right? It's technically a smaller city. It's in the province. But yet, there's still so many niche things that are available and so many options. So, yeah.
So what about safety? Do you feel safe here?
So safe.
I can't even think of a situation where I would feel unsafe other than a random dog that for some reason roams the street that is trying to nip at my ankles. That is the only example I could ever come up with in this city. Even
me, like I would have no problem, especially on like that main road, that diversion.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful.
Walking at night by myself, and usually I'm the one who's like, I'm getting weird vibes. But no, here I'm literally like, if it's nighttime, I have no problem being like, all right, let's go for a walk, or like, oh okay, I have no problem.
We don't really have like a homeless sleeping everywhere, that kind of thing. This city is very, very clean. So. That doesn't mean it has 100% no problems or anything, but the city does address a great deal of them.
Has your budget gone up or down, or what's the...
Depends on the meal, sorry.
Right.
It depends on the meals. Like if you like beef, you're going to be paying a lot for the beef. Like a lot of people, especially from North America, they love steak. We love steak, but it is not cheap here. It is probably one of the more expensive meals. Same with cheese, like normal
dairy cheese.
Cheese, it gets expensive here. So if that's what your diet is, you're going to be paying way more.
You can't make that budget. No. And we have friends that they live on $10,000 a month. They have a huge house, they have everything they need, they go on vacations to different parts of the Philippines like on a regular basis, like 2 weeks here, 1 week there, to stay in 5-star resorts. Of course you can have any budget you want here.
Right.
But unlike many other places in the world, here you can also have a way to live very, very cost effective.
Yeah.
There are people that have $200 a month rent, and we've shown that. Remember that 2-bedroom apartment above? It was 11,000 pesos, so $200 US, right? Yeah. A month for a 2-bedroom apartment in Iloilo, which is a beautiful area here, Arevalo, sorry. And you could just eat like a local, right? And you could live here for $500 a month.
Yeah.
But you're living that life. You can buy food for 200 pesos, that kind of thing. And so you can go and sit all afternoon right at the beach, drink, so you drink 4 beer and split the meal because they're so big half the time, and you're under $20 for 2 people.
Yeah.
$10 a person. Yeah. So that's $300 a month if you did it every single day. Who does that every day? Right? 2 to 3 days a week. Right?
There's somebody out there who's like,
well, we know some people that do that.
excuse me?
Yeah.
Can be much cheaper if you cook at home, but you have to know where you're buying your groceries. If you're going to like the Mega World fancy grocery store, you're going to be paying like top dollar. But if you go to the public market or like even the fresh food vendors, you will save so much more money.
And plus you feel like you're helping someone who actually
exactly. And like the local economy.
You're feeding a family as opposed to feeding a corporation.
Basically, when they opened the country, we had already kind of established ourselves in Albania, and we had a residency, we had a business, we had everything. So we had to wind everything down. So even though we could have moved maybe a month or 2 earlier than that, I believe it was December when they first opened the country, and we had been waiting like this every day for them to reopen, we had to wind everything down before we could pack up and get out.
So you had started a business in Albania? How long were you in Albania?
Yeah, so in Albania, in order to have residency.
Could you please help me with something? You've probably watched our guest star interviews on our guest star playlist. I interview people that have retired overseas. They share valuable information such as cost of living, safety concerns, finding love overseas, healthcare experiences, and money problems. If you'd like to share something that you have learned living overseas, please come to vagabondbuddha.com, click the More tab, click the Contact Me tab, and tell me about what you would like to share with my channel.
There, and it's the only way to stay past 90 days is to start a business, right? You can stay there as a tourist or whatever, that's fine, but they want you to either work and you could take a job. It's weird because most residencies don't work that way, right? Most residencies, if you have lots of money, for example, you're a millionaire, they're like, yeah, come on, stay here. Show us you have enough money to live on. But there they do not care about that. That means nothing. You will not get residency just because you have money. You need to have a business or go to work. Take an Albanian's job. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, the opposite of most countries, right? But they're like, no, if you had just a plain old job, even if you were making whatever, they just want their taxes. That's the key, right? And so even if your business struggles in the beginning or has a lot of expenses compared to income, and technically you're running losses, they do not care. You must pay taxes on 300 euros every month, no matter what. They do not care if you're losing money or anything. So we knew that, and I was a photographer before. I was in corporate, but I also did photography. And so I said, okay, I'm in a resort town, right, where we lived, right across from Greece. You could see Corfu right from our window in our kitchen. And so we just set up a photo studio, like a block from the beach. And so that's it. We ran a photo studio there. And then, but it's a developing country. Let's just say that. It's probably 20% cheaper than it is cost of living than it is in the Philippines, to be honest.
Yeah, it was cheaper.
They don't have as many things, but they definitely have a cheaper life there. Sick of being locked in. We already had a plan to stewing in our brains that we would, okay, we're going to move one day, because I've constantly would work just to go on vacation. That was my life. Right? Some years I would go 5 times to like Costa Rica, that kind of thing. I absolutely hate the winter, and yet I live in Canada. And there's nowhere to go if you're a Canadian. You can't just be like American, where if they live in the north, they go, okay, I'm going to move to Florida and just get a career there. And we don't have that option in Canada. No, we don't. It's colder. That's it. And so I've always said, I don't care how I do it. I gotta find a way to get to a climate that I actually like and love. Yeah, so anyway, we definitely recommend Albania. We lived on a budget of $1,000 a month there. Like I said, out our window, we had a penthouse, a 3-bedroom penthouse, half the building. It was enormous. It was about 3,200 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy big.
Yeah. Our balcony was bigger than most people's apartments. It was a wraparound balcony with maybe 15 feet out, and then another 40 feet this way. And all the way on both sides too.
Yeah, we had half the our apartment was half the building.
Wow.
Meanwhile, there's normal sized apartments below us, but for the 2 penthouses, they were half and half. So
One side we had the ocean, the sea with Corfu, Greece, right? Perfectly in view, no problem. Then you had over here, you got a view of their bay where they have all the big tour ships. They look like big pirate ships. They take people out and party boats and stuff. And then this side was the soccer stadium, or football for Europeans, stadium right below us, so we could watch all of the games. And like I said, they did not lock down.
They were intense.
They loved their games.
They were very rowdy and loved it because we had like the eagle eye view of just the soccer or the football stadium, and then all the people crowding and watching. And then whenever they won or lost, you could tell because they would leave the streets and they'd either be very happy or very upset.
Another really interesting part about Albania, I know it's not supposed to be all about Albania, is that in their culture, the men spend most of their days, not all men, but a large amount of men, sitting in coffee shops, sipping their coffee and their 𝗥𝗘𝗄𝐿, which is their moonshine. And they just sip that, and they'll sit there for hours, 10 hours a day, 8 hours a day, whatever, just chatting with each other, watching the news or whatever, just conversating all day long. And the women go to work. Condo, that apartment? 700 euros a month. And so the remaining budget that we lived on, the food is so cheap there. And I'm talking
wine
and
fresh
lamb and vegetables like crazy. So cheap.
What would a 1-bedroom apartment in that same building go for?
Oh, so like 200 euros.
And we were in the most expensive part of Albania. Okay? It is the tourist destination.
Right. Well, you two, thanks so much for coming out and chatting with us.
No, it's our pleasure.
Talk and meet you guys and stuff.
Very nice. We'll put a link to their channel below. Check it out. This is that
Philippines life. So when people say, "What are you guys doing?" We're just living that Philippines life.
There you go.
It's that simple.
Well, thanks so much, you two.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys. Wonderful to meet you.
Hey, if you liked our video, please like, comment, or subscribe. Any of that would help our business. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Click the link in the notes below this video to get a copy of this content. Plus, grab a free copy of my ebook, How I Fired My Boss and Traveled the World for 13 Years. While you're there, check out our catalog of retired cheap reports all over the world and our hobby income course that we just released. Thanks so much.